Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into another video. Today we're going to be looking at a Raspberry Pi 4B Plus. This is the Model B with 8GB of RAM, so one of the more recent models, if not the latest. It was a bit of an impulse buy, if I'm honest, but I was thinking along the lines of using something like this to install Home Assistant on. If you're not familiar with it, Home Assistant is effectively home automation suite that you can set up on a server, a small computer like this, and through it, through the actual application and the service, you can control various smart home devices, and maybe that's what I'll use this for. So let's go ahead and open it up. Oh, let's quickly have a look at the back of the box. It shows you the specification on the back. So here we've got 64-bit quad-core ARM Cortex A72 processor, 8GB of DDR4 RAM, which is incredible. You've got two micro HDMI ports here, which support up to 4K displays at 60 frames per second or 60 hertz. You've got two USB 3.0 ports and two USB 2.0 ports. The most important thing for me here, and this is what stopped me from buying the more recent models of the Raspberry Pis until I saw this, was they finally got Gigabit Ethernet ports. I think this came out with Pi 4. I don't think Pi 3 had Gigabit Ethernet. I could be wrong. I cannot remember for the life of me. Nice to see Bluetooth 5. Wireless module is also integrated in the device now, so you don't need a separate wireless adapter. So you got 802.11 BGN and AC, which is great. It supports power over Ethernet, which is great. So you do need a separate hat for that. So there are going to be some jumpers on the board that your PoE hat would connect into, and I'll show you where that is when I open it up. And from a power perspective, to supply power to this device, you ultimately need a USB-C power supply. So the old phone charger or something, it shows you the specification. You need an adapter that's running 5 volts at 3 amps output. And I'm sure I've got enough lying in the drawer to power this thing up, so no problem there. So to unbox this thing, we've just got to lift this tab here apparently. So let's see how messy or easy that's going to be. There we go. And that is it. That's pretty much what you get in the box. That and then a bit of paperwork, which, let's be honest, who reads it? But what does it say? Just because they put it in the box, let's have a little read. No idea. So there we go. And we're not going to use that. We're more interested in this right here. So let's have a look at the board, right? Your Gigabit Ethernet port. Now, apparently it's a true Gigabit Ethernet port. I haven't looked at the schematics enough yet to understand whether or not this is sharing the same bus as the USB 3 ports. Whether you're familiar or not with the old models, certainly the first one, I only ever had the Pi 1, to be honest, the first ever generation of Pi. I might have had the second one, but I can't remember. The problem was it had a 100 meg Ethernet port and USB 2 ports on it, but they shared the same bus. So what I tried to do back in the day was to use it as a download server. So I had a USB drive plugged into the USB port to download onto, and obviously the device connected to a physical network. Problem was, when the network speed used to pick up, it used to throttle the transfer speed to the USB drive, so everything was really, really slow, unusable. It just kept falling over, and ultimately it stopped becoming a download server and just became a glorified print server. So my Raspberry Pi served as a print server for a very long time, but that was only one of the Pis. One of the other Pis I had served a very, very important job for me. So very keen on home theater and home cinema setups. I did previously, in my previous home, have a very nice man cave, which I no longer have. But I used the Raspberry Pi's GPIOs to control the lighting and also the projection screens. The projection was coming up and down using a Raspberry Pi. I also had the IR port connected, so it was responding to the actual remote blaster IR commands. And for example, if I pressed play on my remote and the movie would start, my lights would go down dim to a theater mode. And if I paused my movie, because the IR port at the same time was picking up the pause signal that the computer was picking up, this would also pick up the signal and translate that into a command to switch the lights back on. Because when you pause the movie, you might be getting up to go bathroom or get some more popcorn maybe. And obviously you want to see where you're walking, so you're not walking around in too dim lighting. banging into speakers, knocking them over. So that's what I used mainly the Raspberry Pis for. One was a print server, and it was a very good print server, and one was being used to control a projector screen, a very old projector screen, because you don't need to do that anymore, obviously, and an old lighting system, the old Lightwave RF. They weren't smart enough to connect up to any other sort of smart devices at the time, so I had to hack the remote for my remote lighting. I stripped the remote apart. I put loads of jumpers on it. I soldered them all on, and then I connected all the Gpio ports, wrote a bit of code, and ultimately I was controlling lights a very long time ago from one of these beautiful little devices. So Gigabit Ethernet, apparently this is now true Gigabit Ethernet port. Hopefully it's not sharing a bus with a USB 3 port, so we're going to have no bottleneck here on bandwidth whatsoever, and they're not going to interfere with each other. USB 2 ports, okay, fine. Yeah, they're there. Maybe we can connect a mouse or keyboard to them if you want. Low bandwidth applications. This set of jumpers here now, this is where your PoE hat would go. Now, I don't know if it actually says that on the board or not, but I have seen that previously in a diagram. So that is definitely where the PoE hat plugs in. Mind you, it does say there PoE, so this is where your PoE hat will plug into. So you can achieve some power of Ethernet there, which is great. What else do you need here? So you've got your audio jack, great, 3.5mm standard. Nice to see they're still around because you don't see them on smartphones anymore. Hint, hint. Smartphone manufacturers. You've got a ribbon cable here, which allows a couple of ribbon connectors here, which will allow you to connect a couple of things. This one here is definitely for the display because it says display on it. And you've got another interface here as well. And I think that one there you can see is labeled camera. So a couple of different options of connectivity for devices there. And then here, the two HDMI ports. So these were mini or micro, whatever they called them. Micro HDMI ports there. USB-C port for power, and I don't think you can use this for data, to be honest, because then how else would you power this thing up? So I think this is for power and power only. I don't know if there's an option to plug a some sort of a USB-C hub into that and power it, and then also use it for data transfer at the same time. Maybe that's one thing I'll try. I've got a USB-C hub, so I'll test it out. I'll let you know if it works. Right, so, and all here, obviously, these are a plethora of GPIO ports. Absolutely fantastic to play with. If you haven't played with one, I would recommend it. In terms of operating systems, I think now Ubuntu 20.10 Gorilla, or whatever they're calling it, is definitely available for this device, specifically only for the 8 gig model, so I definitely can pop it onto a card and plug it in here. And while we're at it, it's probably worth showing you where the micro SD card goes. So right here underneath, you're seeing micro SD cards now. The older models had the old standard size SD cards. So micro SD in the newer models, I think even from the Pi 3 onwards, we've seen micro SDs. I'll dig out an old one lying in the cupboard somewhere and I'll drop an OS on there. Might first fire it up with Ubuntu just to see how it runs. 8 gig of RAM. I think it will run okay, right? Definitely if you're running the sort of GUI-less OSs, standard sort of Pi, Raspbian or whatever it used to be called, or some other OSs that will be out there in the market now, you're definitely going to see great performance out of a board like this, especially if you're not running in desktop mode with a GUI and all that stuff. Great device to leave lying behind the drawer, running headless. You don't really need much connected to it. You remote onto it, you do what you need, and let it serve its purpose. But something like this can also offer some additional functionality. Maybe you want it to be a media server. Maybe you want to use it as a main computer, because to be honest, that's not a bad specification for if you don't need a lot of grunt, right? If you're doing a bit of browsing, you do a bit of coding, maybe a bit of word processing even. Why not? Why not spend $60 and buy something like this, right? I picked this up from eBay for £60. Thank you, seller, for accepting my best offer. I think the average price you're going to pick one up is between 60 to 70, £75 on the internet anyway. I think it's a reasonable price to pay for a device of this specification. So there you have it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, as always, please leave a thumbs up and do not forget to hit that subscribe button in the corner below, because if you do, when I put more videos up of what I'm doing with this fantastic device and very capable little device, you will be notified. Thanks for watching. Take care and all the best. Bye-bye.